live stream on Facebook. Happy Earth Day, happy 50th anniversary to Earth Day. We're so excited. Obviously, we celebrate Earth Day every day, so we're so glad that you guys are here to share that with us. And today, as you can see, we are celebrating the symbol of the Virginia Living Museum, our American river otters, who are going to kind of come out and hang out over here with us for a little bit. My name is Robin Slepker. I'm the Bird and Mammal curator here, and I'm joined by Carrie Bridgman, who is our training and enrichment coordinator. And of course, you guys know Mo and Molly, our two North American river otters. So we're just going to share a little bit about their history with us. Carrie's worked with them for a very long time. I think we have one question before we get started, though.
Yeah, we already got a question. How do you tell Mo and Molly apart?
Carrie, I'll defer that question to you.
So that's a pretty good question to see right off the bat, since they are in the water right now. There's a couple of different ways you can tell them apart. Generally speaking, the males are larger than the females in the species. However, our otters here, the female Molly is a little bit bigger than Mo. She just comes from a different area, and so she's just a little bit larger. So you can tell that she's a little bit longer than him. And then another thing is that she has identifying marks on her toes. She's actually got part of her digit on her toes on her left side missing. That probably occurred when she was a wild animal. She has a history of being a wild caught otter to begin with, and then she moved to a facility in California and then out to here. And then Mo actually has what's called a mustache mark on his nose, which is just slightly underneath his nose, a little dark spot.
I think, and also just as a side note for our older members of the audience, you can tell that Mo is very much a boy. Parents will let you explain that to your kids if you so choose.
Are otters omnivores?
They can be omnivores, but they're actually considered carnivores because they primarily eat a lot of meat, mostly fish. So they will eat fish and other things like snails, crustaceans. They'll even eat birds and bird eggs, snakes, frogs, things like that.
And we do offer our otters other things. They get some kind of cat chow, that's veterinarian and curator approved, as well as they get some kind of fruits and vegetables, but a lot of that winds up just being fiber that helps keep their whole body system regular. Right now you guys can see they're just getting some of their midday feed, which is primarily composed of fish, and then at the end of this we're going to toss them a nice ice treat in honor of Earth Day. Another question?
Yeah, what's their range?
The river otters, which are what we have here, these are North American river otters. They are found all over the country, up and down the East Coast. You will find them. And aside from just a few pockets in the Midwestern states where they're not as heavily populated, they'll also reach all the way up into Canada.
Lorelei asks, do you ever switch out the water in their habitat?
That's a great question, Lorelei. We actually just did that about 3 weeks ago. So the green color that you guys are seeing in it is actually just a combination of some of the algae that's in there as well as some of the plant matter that's gone in. But we're actually going to post a blog in probably about a week or two with kind of the whole process. We have to actually drop the whole pool. We do it about twice a year just for cleanliness purposes. And then all of our water that we have in here is circulated through a 3-part pump system. So it goes through big giant sand filters, as well as it gets treated with UV light as well to keep it nice and clean, that we don't have to use chlorine or any chemicals like that. So what you guys are seeing is, believe it or not, a very clean pool.
How much do they weigh from Abby?
We do take weights on these guys on a frequent basis, and the last time we weighed them, Mo was about 19 pounds. And Molly was about 20 pounds, which is on average for them. Otters will weigh anywhere from as little as 11 pounds upwards to about 25 to 30 pounds. And that's pretty typical for their ranges here. Mo can go between 18 to 20, and Molly goes between about 20 and 22.
How often they get fed from Emily?
So otters in the wild will eat opportunistically as they hunt throughout the day. So we try to mimic that, and these guys will get a diversity of their foods offered throughout the day. We usually give them an AM when they go out on exhibit, including some enrichment, which can be any kind of food item that they're approved for. They get a midday, which you guys are seeing now, and then they'll get some of their diet when they come inside in the evening as sort of a reinforcer for them coming inside.
Jess wants to know, or rather Trey, sorry, how or if they have webbed feet.
They do have webbed feet, and that's part of one of the features that they have to be able to swim. They are semi-aquatic animals, so you'll find them both up on the land a lot, but also in the water. And webbed feet are part of what help them, and along with a rotor-like tail, so they use that tail to kind of steer themselves and propel themselves through the water.
And it's important to note for a lot of you guys out there that these otters are not the same as sea otters. Sea otters spend the majority of their life in open water, whereas these guys are North American river otters, and they will spend a good bit of their life both on land and in water as well. They actually sleep up on land.
That goes with this next question from Jackie. How much of the day do they spend in water?
That kind of depends. They will be in the water hunting for food a lot. So, and they are kind of active at any time. You can see them, they're primarily crepuscular animals, which means they're going to be active during the dawn and dusk primarily. And then they'll be active at night in the summertime a little bit. And in the winter, where it's warmer during the day, they'll be active during the day. So while they're up and about hunting, they'll be in the water for the most part, but they actually will sleep upwards to about 11 to 12 hours a day on land.
Callie asks, do they shed their fur when it gets warm outside?
They don't shed it quite like a canine will. So our red wolf, for example, has two coats, and it comes out in the summertime. The undercoat, which is a nice thick warm layer, comes out in the spring and summer. The otters actually do have two coats, two kinds of coats. So they have a little bit of an undercoat that keeps them warm, but it doesn't come out quite as much as like a canine does. And that coat is actually very, very thick. They have one of the densest coats in the animal kingdom, and it's upwards from anywhere from 150,000 hairs per square inch to about 300,000 hairs per square inch. That's a tongue twister.
River asks, do otters have cuddle parties?
It's a very, very creative name for what they have.
Yes, they do.
Otters, like many mammals, are very, very social animals. You can often see them in large family groups. Usually have a male and a female, and several pups that are all cuddling together, any kind of related adults, anything like that. With our two otters, while we don't have any pups, they were recommended for breeding, but they were not successful. But you will often see these guys snuggling together on land, and that's a pretty common photograph that we see of people taking of them.
Do they respond to commands or do tricks? Quote unquote tricks.
So they do respond to training. We work on positive reinforcement training here at the museum with our animals. And that basically means that if we are asking a behavior of them, if they do it correctly, they get treats. Usually it's food. It can be something else fun for them, like a toy. And if they don't do it, then we don't tell them they're bad otters or anything like that. We just kind of let them do their thing, redirect them, refocus, or ignore the behavior. So they will do the behaviors, and most of the behaviors we do aid in husbandry, taking care of them. So one example is opening their mouth so we can check out their teeth.
Are these rescue otters? From Jennifer Norris.
These guys actually come, they have two different stories for each individual. Mo was a orphan found in the wild when he was very young, and a family picked him up, tried to take care of him for a little bit to help him out, and realized very quickly that an otter needs to have a habitat where it can be an otter, not in your bathtub at home. And so he came to us as a very young individual. And Molly actually was a wild-caught otter. She was trapped in Louisiana, and a facility out in California, an aquarium out there, got her to their facility to live as part of their collection for a little while. And then they needed to go to an all-male collection instead of having females. And we needed a female friend for Mo, and so we had her transferred here.
So just a quick note on that, otters are pretty complicated as far as their classification out in the wild. In some areas they are considered nuisance animals, so it is legal to trap them for different purposes, but it is generally not advised or illegal really to have an otter as a pet. These guys are dirty, they can be stinky, you can see they require pretty big habitat. and they have a very, very specialized diet with lots of little teeny tiny teeth that are very good at chewing and eating their diets as well.
How old are Mo and Molly?
Mo is about 14 and Molly is probably about 12, give or take. And because she was a wild caught otter, we're not overly sure exactly of her birth date, her birth year, but they estimated that she was about 2 to 4 years of age when they got her. She was at the California facility for a few years, and now she's been here for about 5 years.
Lizzie wants to know, what are they playing with?
These guys are playing with some really fun Earth Day treats. So they have what we call ice treats, and it's essentially just frozen water with a little bit of all natural food coloring in that you guys can get online or in the stores, and then there's some nice yummy pieces of fish in there as well. So this is part of our behavior-based enrichment program. So a lot of the enrichment that we offer here, so toys, special snacks, treats, new and unusual sights for them, we try to elicit or have them do these natural behaviors that they would be doing in the wild. So essentially there's no such thing as a free meal. Even though these guys live a pretty comfy life, we want to make sure that they're still exercising both their bodies and their minds. So you can actually see one of our otters there who's really working on that, trying to pull the fish out with their claws and with their teeth, and using all of those really awesome natural behaviors.
Do you know why the otter is in the logo / mascot from Gina?
That might be because otters are pretty fun and entertaining to watch. They're very active animals and very agile when they're in the water. And so I believe that because we've had the otters here at the Virginia Living Museum for several years, and they're one of our crowd favorites, that's probably why.
And they're also a good reminder to know that they are native to this area, and right now the Virginia Living Museum does focus on the majority of our collection being native animals. So believe it or not, those of you who are in Virginia, you can go out to your local waterway and probably get a glimpse of an otter.
How fast can they swim from Kimberly?
They can swim probably about 6 to 7 miles per hour.
As you saw, I was having a hard time catching up with the camera, so pretty fast.
Yes, Patricia's trying not to make you guys too dizzy while she's following them, but it's difficult.
We have a question from WK Weatherby. Have they been mistaken for seals?
Occasionally, as far as just somebody walking up and seeing them in the water, they might think that they're a seal, but one of the animals that they get mistaken for a lot quicker is a beaver, because they look very, very similar. Aside from the shape of their bodies, they're a little bit more long and slender than a beaver that's more of a rounder shape, and their tails are obviously very, very different. The beavers have the flat tails, and the otters have longer tails.
So if we have any more questions, you guys are welcome to write it on there. And if we don't get to them during this live feed, we can certainly answer them in the feed at any later time. Like I said, we're going to be putting together a nice blog post about how exactly we go about cleaning this exhibit and some other fun things about the otters. But of course, our animals do miss you guys here at the museum. I know the otters look for people every day, so they love interacting with their keepers and any of our other essential staff that are on grounds. I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, how is their eyesight from Angela Pounders?
I would say it's pretty decent. Under the water, they're able to spot pretty easily. They have better eyesight under the water than, of course, we do. But one of the things that aids in hunting underwater for them, aside from eyesight, when the water gets really murky and it's hard to see through, they use their whiskers. They have very long whiskers, so they can use those whiskers to sense and feel and hunt for prey. As far as on land, otters are nearsighted. So that's why you might, if you do happen to encounter an otter up on land, they come a little bit close just to kind of see what you're about.
What are their predators?
The predators for otters, in the water, there's not a lot. Maybe in areas where you can find crocodiles or alligators, and out west where there would be killer whales, those would be some predators in the water. Up on the land, there's a little bit more that they have to contend with, which would be things like bobcats, coyotes, domestic dogs. And then, of course, one of the biggest threats to otters is humans, and that's because of habitat loss and pollution in the water. Otters are actually what's called a bioindicator to their environment, which means basically it's a way to find out if your environment is healthy if you have something like an otter present, because they're a top predator, and so the animals can actually indicate whether the environment is healthy. With pollution in the water, these guys are susceptible to things like mercury toxicity. They can get that through fish and things. And so if the environment is unhealthy, the otters are not going to be around. So habitat loss and pollution is a pretty big one.
All right, guys, so that wraps it up for this Facebook Live on, again, the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So happy Earth Day to all you guys, and thank you for supporting the Living Museum. You can join us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for another one of our Facebook Lives with our natural education series. And of course, you can keep following us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I believe we have some YouTube videos going up. It's also National Volunteer Appreciation Week, so we want to say thank you to all of our wonderful volunteers.
Absolutely.
We miss you. Our animals miss you. We can't wait to have you guys back. And of course, to our wonderful guests, we can't wait for you guys to come back as well. So again, join us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for another Facebook Live, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
See you later.